All right. Last thing, we want to talk about our onboarding assessment process. We've had a lot of different kind of assessments over the years. Well, I would say a lot, but we've always been refining it. And we feel like we've got one to a really great place in terms of speed, being able to build an effective roadmap, and then also finding quick wins, which is something that I think a lot of ops people can just do internally at their own org. Especially if you're new, this is a great thing to do. You probably try and do something similar when you first come on board. If you've had like a reorg and you have like a RevOps team, you're trying to define roles, it's another great thing to do. So I thought it'd be great for Charlie to walk through a little bit of the onboarding assessment process. And for background, when we bring on a new client, they go through this and we use it to build out the roadmap. And right now it's taking about, depending on the time it takes to get like into their systems and so forth, it takes us around like 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to complete. Of course, this is along with other stuff that we're doing, so it can be faster if you're doing it internally. But yeah, just want to kick it over to Charlie, who will talk it through.
All right. Let me share my screen. So I thought I'd start here. Like Chrissy said, I think what is useful with this is not just, for people to learn about what we do, but I think this is applicable if you start a new job, or maybe if you've been at a company for a while, how you can approach like building a roadmap. For us, the way that we work as a business is we're always on an ongoing contract with our clients. Once it usually month to month ish. But our clients, when they come work with us, they're really committing to a long-term relationship. Where at the beginning, we need to figure out really what are the most high leverage things we're going to work on, and then we work on them month over month. We deploy that roadmap. We do the strategy and execution for all the projects, and then we find like projects. We keep on adding and refreshing the roadmap. So the first thing here is just like our onboarding process that I want to walk through, because the onboarding process is not just like onboarding us, getting access, understanding the system. It's also like an assessment and the road mapping process. So the first phase of the onboarding is just getting like the access set up, getting the teams introduced, making sure we have all of that squared away. So that's all, we need that. But then the next phase within phase one, it's like kind of phase 1B, is gathering as much of the documentation that the client has existing, and also just trying to gather some information to help us shortcut some discovery. So in that, we have this sheet where I'm not going to go through like everything line by line in here, but we send this to a client, and these are the types of documentation that we're requesting. Things like, send us your UTM builder, your lead source documentation, your stages documentation. Like, send us the latest board deck that you've presented, any goals you have, stuff like that. So we can really start to understand, like, okay, like for example, from the board deck, that we can understand like what kind of reporting are they looking at, or they have, maybe where some of the gaps are. What are their goals? What are they trying to do as an organization? A lot of our clients don't have a lot of this stuff when we start with them, so they can just say, "Oh, we don't have it." But trying to get an understanding of what exists at the beginning is useful, and also understanding what doesn't exist is really useful too. So we also ask for the stakeholders. So getting a list of all the stakeholders. If you have a RACI matrix, so we can understand, okay, who needs to be responsible for different things or just informed. We get a detailed breakdown of all of the different tools in the tech stack. And then we ask for any reports or dashboards the client currently uses. And most of our clients come to work with CS2 because they want reporting. It's usually like, if you look at like go-to-market ops framework, there's like the foundation that they're trying to build, but then they always want to be able to get like that unified go-to-market reporting, maybe with our custom object, multi-touch distribution reporting, account-based reporting, all of that kind of stuff. But usually they have some reporting that they're using today. So like understand, like seeing, I always say to my team, and I always think this, show me a report a client's using, and I can understand so much more about their instance than maybe what you'd expect just from looking at a report, right? Like, show me a lifecycle report or a conversion rate report or a stage report. Do they have the date stamps on there? What are their stages? Is it a lead report or a contact report in Salesforce? Is it a customer? Like, you can is there data issues? Like, do they have like mismatches on the source or sourcing information? Are they not using campaigns? Like, all of the stuff you can see in reporting. So once we get a list of the reports, we dig into that. Yeah, so usually our clients don't have a data dictionary, but understanding which fields are the right ones to use. So usually what our clients do have is like 25 fields that are trying to say the same thing. So knowing like which one is the one that actually are they using is really helpful, because we do a data analysis of all of these fields. And the last thing is we have a lot of these technical discovery questions. I won't go through all of them here, but it helps us really shortcut the understanding of that instance. So there's a lot of stuff that we can find out by actually doing our own digging. But because we want this process to be pretty quick, asking the question just so we can get that information from the horse's mouth, so to speak, quickly, this really shortcuts us to be able to get there. If the client doesn't have the answer, we'll go find out the answer, but it really helps us get there quick. Some of the examples of how this whole process speeds things up is like from the reporting side, right? Like, there could be hundreds of reports in Salesforce, hundreds of dashboards, but like, how do we know which ones the ones you're actually using? The client shows us the ones they're using. That even just that can save us hours of like digging through, trying to figure out which ones are being used and which ones are not. So the lesson here is, before you even go around getting into the systems, there's like a bit of pre-work that you want to do to be able to get an understanding of like where to look, where some of the issues are from people who might have worked there already. What field should I be looking at? What report should I be looking at? And that can save you a massive amount of time. Like, in the past, we would always just dive right in and do the assessment, and it would take a long time, maybe double the length it's taking now. Now, with this step in the process, it maybe adds like 2 to 3 hours onto the plate of the client. And it always comes up on the onboarding calls. The client's like, oh, this looks like a lot of work. And I go, okay, I promise you, every time we've done this loads now, the client will always come back and say, actually, it wasn't that bad. It took me like a couple of hours. And then I speak to them afterwards and I'm like, so how long did it take you? And they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. It took me a couple of hours. And their couple of hours can save us like 20 hours, because we're not trying to click around everything, trying to figure everything out. We know where to zero in and look. So really encourage people like to take that step. If you're like a new person in the company, just go through the work of just gathering information first. The next step then is we do our own analysis. So I'm not going to go through every section here, but we have, I think there's 81 different things that we look through. And some of these are just like reviewing some of the survey questions, which I'll talk about in a second. But there's, we look through like data capture and campaign operations, communication orchestration, source and campaign attribution data, sales ready qualification and scoring data, sales handoff. All this is like different sales tech, Salesforce architecture audit, stages, lifecycle funnel data, ABM, analytics framework. And once we go through all of these things, we have a way that we analyze and review each of these items. We note down the current state on like a needs work developing proficient matrix. And then we will add the findings, analysis, and recommendations, and any images. So that's our detailed review of all of the different things. And if you go to look at our go-to-market operations framework, you'll see a lot of these items that I just talked about there are the boxes on that framework. Like, we're trying to look at all the different components of the system. Imagine you're getting your car, like audited essentially, and like you're going to look at the gearbox, the transmission, the tires. Like, it's like this is all those different things that we look at and give an assessment on. The other thing as well, actually, that I'll come back on is the survey. So we do the technical survey, but we also have a leadership survey. This is usually done by like a typed form or something like that, not in the Google Sheet. So it can be more anonymous and we can get leadership feedback. And then it's very much more high level, like, what are your goals? What are some of your high level pain points, as opposed to all the technical questions? That's just to make sure that we're aligning with leadership. Again, I would encourage, if you're starting a new job, do that, right? Like, you want to hear from leadership. What are they trying to solve? What are their biggest issues? And how can we try and solve those? You don't want to be like, I'm going to go work on this random ops thing over here that might have no impact on what the business is really trying to achieve. So once we've got through the documentation gathering, the surveying, and our own discovery process, we then start building out our presentation, which will detail out what we've reviewed, and then we go into an executive summary. So this is really what we've heard from the client first, where we go, okay, like, these are the pain points we're hearing from you for this. This is an example, like funnel and lead management inefficiencies, data enrichment. Like, the clients really told us they want us to focus on reporting and data hygiene and accountability, and how are we defining success. We then give a detailed analysis of like, okay, these are all of the findings and recommended projects at an executive level. So an exec can have like one slide of like, okay, this is what we're going to be focusing on, like, for the first part of the roadmap. We have a link to all the details, so if someone wants to go look at all the details, they can. But then we get into the roadmap. So the first part of the roadmap is an effort impact matrix. Again, we've talked about different prioritization matrix for years now. Like, pre-COVID, I feel like we were harping on about this. Like, you build a roadmap. Use this type of effort impact matrix. We've tried lots of different ways to prioritize. We always come back to the effort impact. So I think it's the perfect way to get aligned. And like the top right quadrant, high impact, high effort, these are like your big roadmap projects. The top left quadrant, the higher impact but lower effort, these are the quick wins that are going to be valuable to the organization. Bottom right, if it's a higher effort but low impact, that's backlog. If there's stuff in there, you don't really want to work on it anytime soon. There's going to be much better things to work on. And then the same on the lower effort, lower impact, that's also should be added to the backlog. So we've gone through the survey, we've gone through the data collection, we've gone through our own discovery now, and then we've listed out, these are the, half a dozen to a dozen core projects or different items we want to work on, then prioritize them in this effort impact matrix, which can then, if I keep clicking through here, go into then our roadmap. So one of the things we like to do is code the different projects we're working on. So for us, we use, like in that effort impact, there's roadmap projects and quick wins. So for a roadmap project, we'll call like RP1. That'll be like that's a project on the roadmap. Here we have RP1A and RP1B. Essentially, it's like building out funnel lifecycle tracking using a custom object, and then building out the marketing sales stages, handoff, and process. Those two things are very interlinked. So we call this RP1A and B. And this isn't always like in necessarily like a prioritization order, but it can be. But I think coding them really helps. So when we're giving like our weekly updates or we're giving exec updates, we can be like, okay, RP1A, everyone knows what it means. It's the lifecycle project. This is where we're at with that project. And then, we give out these rough timelines. Like anyone in operations, like timelines and estimating are always really difficult. You always seem to like, it's pretty difficult to like really nail like how long something's going to take until you start getting into it. But we've been doing this long enough that we can give like some rough timelines on some of these for particular clients. Like this client, actually, we're deploying all of this tomorrow of recording. So on the 6th of June. So we're actually brought in this project over a month early for RP1A and B. So always under promise, over deliver is always a good technique too. And that's getting to the roadmap. The other thing is, within this, there's other projects that didn't get added to this initial stage of the roadmap. So that's going to be other things that we keep refreshing the roadmap with. So again, a roadmap is like a living document that you're going to want to update over and over as you work through the project. But it's, for this client, it took about 2.5 weeks to get to this point. And it's the most valuable, like 2.5 weeks of the engagement, really, because you've really figured out, you understand the org, you've aligned on the big projects, and now you're actually working on the high value work, and you've also shortcutted some of that work because you already know like some of the technical things within the whole go-to-market ecosystem or the go-to-market operations that you would need to find out anyway for each of these particular projects. So I know that's kind of a lot, and I've been on a bit of a rant here. So I'll see if Chrissy wants to add
No,
anything
I
there.
think it's great. I think for those people who are thinking about like, okay, this is really great for an agency to do, and then what do I do in house? But I think, like Charlie said, you could definitely run the same thing in house, especially good if like you're a new leader or you're coming in new, or you're just like an org that's trying to like up level themselves. And I think a few things that you get out of it that we talk about all the time is one, you get documentation, because if you're looking to find documentation on all those important things and you don't find it, it means that you need it. Or maybe it's all living in disparate systems, and at least you can have it kind of all in one place, which is so useful, just for the org in general. And then getting some of that survey results back, I think, is really great, because then you can really understand what are the needs and goals of the business, including leadership. And then having a long-term roadmap, because as we know, like ops teams can be just so reactive, and that's what sometimes can be a a hindrance to them, because the whole org is wondering like, what's that team doing? They're just doing these like things day to day. Like, what are they actually providing impact for like the whole business? And so if you do have that very high level long-term roadmap, but also still while maintaining like quick wins and stuff, I think that's a really great balance for how you can support the go-to-market team, and then also be able to show for it. It's something that you can report out on and give weekly updates to the whole go-to-market team. It just looks like you have your shit together, honestly. And you do if you're doing it that way. So I love it.
Yeah, I think that there are some agencies out there that start, and we've been guilty of this in the past. We start and you just dive right in.
Hmm.
Yes, that can work, and sometimes you have to just be scrappy and do that. I'm not criticizing anyone else, but for us, just taking a couple of extra weeks, a few extra weeks to like really understand the full org, understand where they're at, dig into all like those 60 to 80 things, so you can get a really good like understanding. Okay, if we build something new into this system, what else am I going to have to look at? Like, what is the state of everything else? Because it's such an interconnected system. You can't just like build something over here without worrying about what it's going to affect over here. And if you haven't looked at what's over here, you could totally cause a downstream issue. So I'm pretty adamant that you have to do something like this if you start a new company, or if you're onboarding a new consultant or agency. They should go through a process of really understanding everything that's set up, aligning with everyone's goals, and aligning with you on a roadmap. And if you're not doing that, I feel like you're kind of just like running a bit blind and
You're going to
just
end up doing it anyway, right?
yeah, or
Or if
like
you don't,
random acts of
then
ops. It's
yes,
like
random
people
acts
always
of
talk
ops,
about
but also
random
if you,
acts of marketing, but it's random acts of ops. So just going around, you'll be like, oh, well, let's just fix like
yeah,
emails or something. It's like, okay, but like, was that like actually what's going to move the needle here?
yeah.
Like, so
Or you let people drive your roadmap for you, which is not strategic, you know?
exactly, yeah, yeah. You're just an order taker.
Yeah. Um, Great. Well, I thought so many great pieces of advice in this episode. It was really good fun. So I hope the rest of you thought the same thing, and get a little bit of insight into some of our secret sauce here at CS2's. So thanks everyone for joining. And if you enjoyed this episode, share with a colleague or friend, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Yeah. So yeah.